Welcome to Pacific Balance Marine Management. My name is Tom Seawood. I'm the president of our All First Nations organization, made up of directors from throughout British Columbia. We've been working for over 2 years now with the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans to see our food social ceremonial harvest of pinnipeds, seals and sea lions, so that we get licensed so that we can sell the parts that come from the animals we harvest. Right now, a few of the tribes, they will eat the meat from the seals and sea lions throughout British Columbia, but not very many. Some people are harvesting the pinnipeds for the hides to be made into drums that we use in our ceremonies called potlatch and other ceremonies. But what we've seen through the last few decades is because the 1960s stopping of the cull of seals and sea lions by the federal government, so it was illegal to shoot them, it was only a few First Nations that would harvest the pinnipeds for food social ceremonial. But for thousands of years, us Indians, as First Nations, in our harvest, we kept harmony and balance within the ecosystems. And of course, with modern laws where we're not allowed to harvest them and sell the parts, not enough people have been doing that harvest, and in turn we have what you see behind me. An increase in the population of sea lions throughout the British Columbia coast. The ones that you hear growling, making that roaring growl, those are the indigenous Steller sea lion, the big tan ones, the huge ones. The smaller ones that you hear barking, those are California sea lions. Now, in the studies that I've been doing, we have found that there is no name in any of the British Columbia dialects of the indigenous people for California sea lion, other than by the southern Vancouver Island tribes called Salish, that one of the people that was interviewed said that term for the sea lion, the name, the California sea lion, comes from when our traders and our explorers went in our canoes far to the south, to the Columbia River and beyond. And that's where California sea lions have come from. I have a biologist retired in his 90s from the United States who sent me by email a report from the 1950s, and it stated that a point in Oregon, the California sea lions weren't coming north of that point. But in the early 1980s, the California sea lions would enter Puget Sound. We all know about Horace and his buddies eating the steelhead and other salmon at the Ballard Locks in Seattle. They would trap those animals and bring them back down to California, and a few weeks later they would show up again. They knew it was the same ones because they had tagged them. They put numbers on their hides. Well, here we are in Cowichan Bay on eastern Vancouver Island at the mouth of the Cowichan River. November 4th, 2020, there's a commercial salmon seine boat over there, and I'm a seine fisherman by trade, and there's supposed to be an opening down here, but I heard dock chatter that tells us that the fisheries, the biologists figure that the sea lions, because there's so many of them here, are holding off the salmon from going upstream to spawn, and they haven't gotten the numbers of escapement up the river of salmon that they expected. But you also know through the science that these sea lions eat anywhere from 30 to 50 pounds of fish per day. There's well over 100 sea lions here, so do the math. That's a lot of salmon being consumed. We're not saying we're totally against sea lions and seals. We're saying that there's too many. The scientists at the Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans, Dr. Carl Walters and others, they too agree that there needs to be a harvest of the salmon specialist pinnipeds, the seals and sea lions that are found in our estuaries, our rivers, and in some cases, like Nipmuc Lake and Wass Lake on Vancouver Island, the seals have made it upriver right into the lakes. Over in the Fraser River system, Pitt Lake has seals and sea lions in it. We hear stories from the northern British Columbia regions, the Skeena and the Nass, where the overpopulation of seals and sea lions, they're going hundreds of kilometers up those rivers. So Pacific Balance Marine Management, that's exactly what we want to see. Our marine resources managed so that there's not an overpopulation of seals and sea lions decimating our salmon, our herring, our ooligans, and other fin fish. There's all kinds of contributing factors, but but the hard science is in. It's time that there needs to be a harvest. We don't use the C word, cull, because we believe, as First Nations have for tens of thousands of years, that you don't just kill. You harvest and utilize every part of the animal. So these sea lions, their hides can be used for all kinds of different applications, from drums to traditional regalia, to chaps for motorcycles, to like a ski pants for someone to wear. They're semi-waterproof, they keep you warm. I'm in a East Coast fur seal vest right now, and it's pretty cold, but I'm warm when I put it on, and it also looks good. This is a red dyed eastern seal from Canada's seal hide that's made into a poppy by an Indigenous woman, and she has an agreement with the Veterans Affairs of Canada that some of the proceeds from her sales goes towards the veterans. So seals and sea lions, there's many different things we can do with them. Hopefully, as we progress with the harvest, we're going to be doing toxicity testing from throughout British Columbia, and we will find that a lot of the seals and sea lions are going to be fit for human consumption and pet food consumption. People may cringe at that, but in East Coast Canada, you can go on their ferries and you can see a menu with a diverse array of different seal products to be served to you, from flipper pie to sandwiches to stews. And with the pet food industry, we know of our pets getting hot spots and dry skin and pad problems. Well, the husky breed was raised with seal meat and seal oils in their diets. So why would you, as a husky owner, not want to have the true organic meat, the traditional food of the husky, being fed to your loved one, your pet? And then we have the oils, high in omega-3 fatty acids, used in the pharmaceutical industry for lotions and skin creams. It's also been found to help with the oil when you take the seal oil capsules, to help slow down things like dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and something that we don't want any of our family members or ourselves to contract. Recently I heard from a laboratory down in the United States, and they wanted to get the brains from younger seals because they have found that it offsets and stops Alzheimer's and dementia. So there's all kinds of applications that we can utilize with the seals and sea lions. Some may think it's bad, it's gross, it's inhumane. But just remember, we Indigenous people have been utilizing pinnipeds since the dawn of our creations for thousands of years throughout all of the coasts in 6 different continents throughout the world. And as we're hearing from across the world in many other places like Norway, England, Tasmania, United States, even South Africa, the pinniped populations are exploding, and in turn they're consuming too much of the marine resources, and with the human populations exploding as well, we have to all work together to find balance and harmony by managing the pinniped populations. But we are focused on the pinniped populations to be managed here in coastal British Columbia. I thank you very much. You can listen to more of what we have to say in interviews as well as posts in our Facebook group, Pacific Balance Marine Management. I am the president. I have a strong team of fellow First Nations that work with us, and by all means reach out to communicate with us so that we can share with you information and insight into the seal and sea lion overpopulation, but as well as the reestablishment of an industry that kept coastal British Columbia's Indigenous people and the newcomers after contact going up until the early 1960s. I thank you very much. In our language, halakalesla. Go in peace.